Hey guys, Kevin here from thesportsgeek.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about DraftKings NHL strategies to help you win more money. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to mention that these DraftKings NHL strategies are for the big guaranteed prize pool tournaments where you're trying to finish first and capture that big first place prize. There is different strategies if you're playing in the 50-50 games or the heads up against another opponent. So these are for the big GPP tournaments. So number one is know the scoring system. All the daily fantasy sites out there will have their own scoring systems, and they might be a lot different from any year-long fantasy hockey pools that you play in. So at DraftKings, you're getting 3 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. You also get half a point for shots on goal. So that's a big thing to note, is that forwards that are shooting a lot, or even D-men that are shooting a lot, you're getting a half point for every shot on goal. And then also big for D-men as well is you get a half point for blocked shots. At DraftKings, there's a short-handed point bonus. So every time, any point that a player gets while it's short-handed, they get 1 extra point. And unlike other sites, there's no power play point bonus. So at some sites, you get an extra point for power play points. At DraftKings, they don't have that. They just have the short-handed bonus. Also, it's important to know that goalies get 0.2 points per save. So besides the wins and shutouts that you want, you also may want a goalie that gets a lot of shots, because if a goalie is going to have a 40 save shutout, you're going to get a ton of points. Okay, so number 2 is to use the late swap to your advantage. So DraftKings allows you to swap out players right up until their game time. This is helpful for the late, say 10 o'clock games, if 10 p.m. Eastern, the West Coast games. You could roster a player whose status is unknown, so maybe he's dealing with an injury. The contest starts at 7. You don't know his status, but you want to roster him, so you put him in there. And then worst case situation, he's out with the injury or whatever, and you swap him out for a different player. So you can roster players in late games whose statuses are unknown. And another way you can use this to your advantage is if you're down and out in a GPP tournament, you're way behind the money, you're probably not going to cash, and you can swap in a risky pick. So for example, let's say that there's one 10 o'clock or one late West Coast game remaining, and you've got the goalie who is the favorite in that game, and you think they're a big favorite, let's say, so you think he's going to be really highly owned. You're down and out in the tournament. You can change that goalie for the underdog goalie. He'll be a lot lower owned. And let's say you never know, he puts up a 50 save shutout, gets you enough points to get you in the money. That's how you can use the late swap to your advantage for that. So number 3 is correlated plays. When a goal is scored, there are often 2 assists to go with it. If not 2, there's usually 1 assist. Sometimes there's unassisted goals, but usually we're getting 2 assists with every goal. So let's say you roster a centerman and his 2 wingers. If that centerman goes off and has a 2 or 3 goal night, there's a good chance that the wingers are going to have some points too. So if you can correlate your plays that way by playing players who are going to play together, if one of them goes off for a big night, there's a good chance that the others are, and you're going to have a high scoring night. So that's a good way to win a GPP tournament. You also want to note that power play units may be different from regular lines. So a good way to win a GPP tournament is to have a power play unit that goes off maybe for 3 or 4 goals on a night. So if you have, let's say, all 3 forwards on power play unit 1 and maybe 1 or even both of the D-men, and they all have big nights, that might win you a GPP tournament. So check on the power play units as well as the regular lines. Okay, so number 4 is to use Vegas lines. You can check the team totals, and a high team total equals a higher probability of points. But with that said, you also want to be careful with this. If there's a team on the board that is expected to score a lot of points that night, those players on that team are probably going to be really highly owned. So you can also fade that too in big GPP tournaments. Another thing you want to do is watch line movement. So if you have huge underdogs that are slowly coming down in price, that might be a good time to jump on some of the players on that underdog team. They might be lower owned, and the smart money's coming in on them, so there might be something there. They might put up a good night for you. Number 5, check the starting goalies. Do not make the mistake of rostering a goalie that isn't starting. I've done it before. I didn't have the time to check and change it later in the day, and it sucks. You're pretty much done for the night. So don't make that mistake. Even the best goalies get 1 game off a week usually. So make sure you're checking closer to their game time if they're starting. If they're not, you're going to have to change up your lineup a little bit. And the second point here, sometimes you want to check the starting goalies to see if a backup's playing. Some teams have really poor backups, so there's sometimes value in rostering players versus a bad backup goalie. Number 6 is low ownership. Low owned players give you an advantage over more people in a contest. I've talked about this in other strategy videos I've done, and for some reason, a lot of people don't really understand this, why you want low owned players. But to give you an example, let's say that there's a goalie that's really hot right now. His team's a huge favorite at home, and that goalie is 70% owned on the night. If you don't take that goalie, and that goalie has a bad night, he has an awful night, maybe he gets pulled, and you're in the 30% of the people that don't take that goalie, now you're only fighting with 30% of the contest for first place, pretty much. And on the other hand, let's say you take a player who is 1% owned, and he has a hat trick and an assist on the night, he just has a huge night for you, you're getting an advantage over the 99% of the people that didn't take that player. So having low-owned players can be a good thing, especially for the big GPP tournaments. Alright guys, so that wraps up my DraftKings NHL strategies. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know by clicking the thumbs up button on YouTube so I know to keep making videos like this. And also, if you want my free lineup tool, it includes an NHL tab, which will help you build your NHL lineups and help you win more money at DraftKings. Just click on the link in the description below if you don't already have that tool, and it's all yours for free. As always, good luck in your DraftKings contest. Cheers, guys.